Hi, I'm Mark Tyrrell of Uncommon Knowledge and hypnosisdownloads.com, and welcome to Dealing with the Fear of Death. 5 life-affirming ways to stop irrational fear of death spoiling your life. I'm not afraid of dying, I just don't want to be there when it happens. So said Woody Allen. A client of mine said to me, fear of death, I forget about it sometimes, but I might be at a party or having dinner with friends and then it hits me all over again. I'm going to die. I don't know when, but I do know it will happen sometime. One day I won't be here. None of us will. I feel frightened, sad, and immediately stop enjoying myself. What's the point? Because I'll be dead one day anyway. This client also said, that it happens at night sometimes too. I become acutely aware, not just a thought, but a strong feeling that one day I'll be gone forever. I just want to forget about it, like other people seem to do. After all, I'm young and, as far as I know, healthy. So that was his story, and I've heard that from other people as well. The fear that one day we won't be here, and what's the point of it all? Natural fear of death, such as any of us would experience if, say, confronted by an axe-wielding maniac or an aggressive illness, had, for another client of mine, Gillian, become an obsession, something that ate into, chewed up and spat out her good times and kept her awake at night. Fear of death, also known as necrophobia, had made her a suitable case for treatment, which is why she came along to see me. So does fear of death drive all we do? This is an interesting question. Some people say that much of human behavior, from watching unreal reality TV to novel writing or cake baking or mountain climbing and empire building, is just a kind of displacement activity, mass distractions used to fend off awareness of our own inevitable non-being one day. But actually, I reckon some people don't really know they're going to die, or they know they're going to die, but they don't know it intrinsically. So death can seem unreal until it actually approaches us. What's the point of thinking about it? There's nothing you can do anyway. That's a line that most people take, and that's too right. But for some, it's all they can think about, because it becomes an obsession. The following strategies helped Gillian relax and start enjoying life again. So please let them help you as well if you tend to ruminate too much about the fact that one day we all have to pass from this mortal sphere. So number 1, use fear of death, or at least awareness of it, to help you live. Once upon a time, a man set out on a sea voyage with many other people. The weather got rougher and rougher, until a ferocious storm threatened to upend the ship and send it spiraling into the depths of the ocean. Everyone on board was beyond terrified except this one man, who, unlike everyone else, just sat passively and seemingly at ease with the situation. At last, when it became clear the storm was abating, a group approached the man and asked him, "How could you remain so calm when we were only seconds away from possible death?" And the man eyed them evenly and replied, "When is it ever different in life? Of course, we shall all one day join the ever-expanding ranks of the silent majority, and anyone with any imagination can sometimes suddenly be struck by the reality that their life is finite. There will one day be a whacking great full stop. But a morbid fear of death stops us living, and that's the problem. As they say, you're a long time dead, so live. Awareness of death can be used to bring positive action to our lives and incite us to act decisively sometimes. We live in a sanitized world that masks death whilst seeming to portray life as eternal. Death? Not for our generation. We're different. Surely we're going to buck the trend and live forever. Death in Western culture has become something of a taboo, something that shouldn't really happen, almost like a personal failing. Laziness, fear to act, and pettiness can all be countered by sometimes reflecting on our own transience. But of course, to do this effectively, we need to calm right down around thoughts of our own demise. 2. Look for triggers. Talking with Gillian, I learned that there were triggers, times in which fear of death crept up, pounced, and seemed to overwhelm her, suddenly overtook her. How long has it been like this? I asked her gently. And she thought about it and she said, well, I got worse when my grandmother died. And that was interesting. Often a morbid fear of and preoccupation with death is prompted by either witnessing death or being bereaved, especially if the loss is sudden and unexpected. One 11-year-old child I worked with developed an overwhelming fear of death after the family cat had died. And suddenly the whole area of mortality became live for this child. Where did it start? Okay, ask yourself, where did this start? When do you remember this becoming a preoccupation? Perhaps you're still troubled by whatever caused the fear in the first place. And once any traumatic feelings subside, the fear of death will also naturally recede. If you suspect you're still suffering the effects of the death of someone, seek the help of a suitable trained professional, someone who knows how to deal with trauma comfortably and quickly. Gillian, my client, noticed that she became preoccupied with death after periods of stress. I helped her better deal with the general stresses in her life, and the happy ripple effect was that now she dwells less on the great inevitable and has really started enjoying the time in the sun that she now has. 3. Calm right down. Ever noticed how the more you try not to think about something, the more you think about it? I never advise people to try not to think about something, especially when it comes to fear of death. Instead, get into the habit of relaxing deeply whilst briefly considering the fact that we're all going to die someday. Because it's not so much what we think about, but how we feel when we think about it. And if you change the way you feel when you think about something, then the whole preoccupation changes. It becomes less of a concern. Feeling differently when thinking of something will help you feel differently about it in the future. This happens when anyone with any type of phobia takes time to actually think about what they're phobic of whilst feeling really relaxed. The whole association begins to change. Doing this takes the charge out of the fear, even stopping it altogether. So whilst listening to a relaxation audio or when relaxing in the bath, just notice what it's like to think about the fact that we all die at some point. And you can do that whilst relaxed. And incredibly soon you'll notice that you'll just start to feel so much better about it, to the point where you don't even need to think about it anymore. 4. Consider nature's compensations. When it comes time, it feels right. Death might not feel right now in the balmy midst of vitality and life, but nature has its compensations. I know someone who was hit by a bullet, and he tells me at the time he didn't feel any pain. And I've heard other people who've survived accident and injury describe the same thing, or as if there was no fear whatsoever. They were outside of the situation. So during life-threatening emergencies, nature helps you by putting you into a state of detachment. Reality seems to take on a dreamlike, sometimes even slow motion quality, like a psychological protective buffer helping us manage and live through the experience. People close to death describe how it starts to feel right for them. If you live 90 years or suffer a long illness, death starts to feel, perhaps, much more a part of the natural cycle of things than it does right now when you're healthy and reasonably young. Nature has its own way of helping us manage things when those things arise. So remember this. 5. As you were, so you will become. Do you recall the billions of years before you were born? Do you recall any of that? Maybe you do. Does the acorn fear to become the oak tree? Or the grub the butterfly? Before you were here, did you fear to come into this world? How will extinction, if that's what awaits us, be different after you've lived than the experience was before you were born. And really, I'm serious about that. Really think about how it would be different. Reflect on this idea sometimes. Let it grow within you and help you live as best you can. Gillian was young, energetic, funny and kind. Nature needs these qualities to help fulfill all of humankind's needs, not just the needs of a single being. Now she doesn't think about her own inevitable one-day death, or if she does, as she says, it's when I choose to reflect on the importance of living. So I hope you found that useful, and if you did, please hit like and subscribe, and if you want to hear when my next video is published, hit the notification bell below. I'm Mark Tyrrell of Uncommon Knowledge and hypnosisdownloads.com, and if you'd like to try some of my personal development products, head over to hypnosisdownloads.com and take a look around. And thanks for watching.